Is your customer's information protected? Are you sure? Well, the Data Protection Act is now law, which means that you can be fined up to 4% of your total revenue if you're found in breach of not protecting your customers' data. I'm Khalil Oranos, and it's time for another episode of Money Moves, JA, brought to you in partnership with Exim Bank's Business Advisory Service, giving you the tools to grow your business. On today's episode, we have back with us CEO of tTech, Christopher Reckord. Welcome back, Chris. How are you?
Thank you for having me again, Camila. I am doing good.
Speaking of again, so the last time you were here, the Data Protection Act was just an act. It wasn't quite law yet.
It was unbecoming. It was almost there. But there are a few steps that have to happen.
So now it's law. Give us the update, because there are a few things that were kind of confusing me earlier.
Yes. So the upper house and the lower house they have passed the law last summer. The Governor General has assented the law. In other words, he has signed it. So what's supposed to happen now is that the minister is to give an effective date of the law, right? So what we're seeing happening in the media recently is that there was a full page ad that came out in the newspaper with job descriptions around all the various persons for the commissioner's office. And so we know that something has started. And then more recently, there was an invitation for let's call it board members, but for committee members forming the committee that will make the office of the Information Commissioner. I'm not too sure what Jamaica is going to call it as yet, the final name, but invitation for committee members to form that committee. Let's call it the commission at a high level, right? So that happened just again, this is our last week. I mean, it's brand new. So things are happening, and for us as practitioners out there, we realize, all right, these guys are getting serious, this thing is about to happen. So we're kind of putting people on notice, guys. This thing is right on our doorsteps right now.
Okay, so it's passed into law, yes, but it's not effective yet?
What does that mean? So the law is there, but then in order for anyone to be fined or anyone to be, not in compliance and all of that, there has to be an effective date. In other words, giving people time to put their house in order, call it that. So that effective date has not been announced by the minister responsible yet. When you look on the law, it actually says it in there that that effective date is the next thing that's supposed to happen.
Okay, so what is it? Is it that they're giving people more time to comply before it becomes effective?
No, I think what is happening is that the minister has to put the organization together. So this law will be, just like any other commission, there has to be some sort of a commissioner or some sort of an office that's now responsible for compliance. So you're putting that house in order. You're hiring the people, you're hiring the commissioner, you're hiring the various support staff and legal people and all these things around.
But the effective result is that businesses do have a little bit more time while they do all of that.
The effective result is that. So that's why we are trying to say, hey guys, you have a little bit of, they have some time. So we start to become aware of what's going on, start to learn to understand what's necessary, start to learn to understand the organizational measures, the IT security measures, start to learn and understand all of these things.
So that's where you come in to tell us what we need to do to make sure that we are compliant when this thing actually does become effective. Right. So what do we need to do? What do we need to know?
That's the first thing. In other words, it's going to take a period of time for businesses to understand the law and for them to come to realize, okay, what do I really need to do to register in this commissioner's office? Because once you're dealing with people's personal data, and you recall the last time we were here, I made a statement that was, somewhat cause for contention and cause for debate.
The whole thing about the emails, yes, right? People were
up in arms about it because, and it's good.
But it was fact.
It was fact.
Yeah, they just didn't know, and it surprised people.
They didn't understand it.
Right.
So all that happens sometimes is that there is a, they don't call it a misunderstanding, but there is information, and information is subject to a lot of different interpretations, right? And so the interpretations that were out there around that specific email, who owns your email statement that we made, there are some lawyers that look at it one way, some privacy scholars looked at it another way. But the fact of the matter is that once you're processing people's private data, organizations now need to have policies in place to let people know if if you, for example, are a service provider doing work for a company and you now need to handle their, let's say their staff's names and addresses and date of births and anything that can identify that person, you don't need to have an agreement with each other as to how long you're keeping that data, what it is being used for, and that you are giving them permission, and that the staff needs to also know who else has this data, because there's a lot of companies out there that outsource their payroll, for example, to other companies, and you're working for a company and have no idea that your payroll is outsourced, right? So when this happens, unless there's something happened to the payroll processor and the data is accidentally leaked out, there's a cybersecurity event, and then now you, all of a sudden, your name and your image and your date of birth and your whatever various other private data information is now public. And what happens? Who's now responsible? Is it your employee that's responsible? Is it the person's processing that's responsible? So all of these things now are now huge things that people now need to start to consider.
So even if I have, because I'm here thinking, is it basically every business that needs to register? Because most businesses, you know, you have employees and you collect data on your employees.
Yes.
So is it pretty much everybody that has to go register?
Pretty much everybody. Okay. So that raises another point, because there are some organizations of certain sizes that have the resources to handle all of this internally, and a lot of businesses don't have the resources to handle it internally. Which is why, you know, for us, one of the things that we went and did is partnered with a privacy firm, a firm that is, they're putting together their business plan around helping people design privacy. And that's what they're doing. They're saying, look guys, this thing is not simple. Not everybody can do it. So let's help. You know? So let's help with advice, let's help with training. So for example, one of the things we're now doing is we're coming on, you know, board training, advising board of directors as to, okay, what's your role in this thing? Advising the management teams in the organization, what's your role in this thing? And just kind of giving as much information as possible.
Okay, so step one is registering with the
getting prepared to register.
Commission.
Right, prepared.
Right, because the commission isn't set up yet.
Exactly, so getting prepared to register. Use the time right now. There are several organizations.
So how do you prepare to register?
Okay, good point. So one of the things is doing what we call an assessment of how much private data personal private data do you actually process in your organization? Where is it used? How does it flow? How does it come into the organization? So you gave an example a while ago about payroll, or another example about just you having an HR department and you're hiring people. Mm-hmm. That information comes in. All right, what's next? You know, I've sat in a few sessions where we're doing the data mapping and where does the data move to? So that's one of the things that companies need to figure out. Where does the data come in? Where is it saved? Where does it move to? What happens next? What happens when the person no longer works with the organization? Is it then destroyed, or do you keep it on file for X amount of years? Why? All of these things.
So they're going to ask you all of this when you go to register?
Yes, when you go to file. You have to present that map. It's
a lot of work.
It's a lot of work.
I feel like they're going to have challenges with getting compliance.
You might not be incorrect.
But then there are penalties for not complying.
The penalties are huge because it is percentages of your revenue. And it's not up to
revenue, not profit.
Revenue. Global revenue. So wherever you are all over the world.
How much percent of your revenue?
Up to 4%. So there are actually two versions of 2% in some, but 4%. Up to 4%. Let's just keep it at that. Mm-hmm. As the simplest way. So yeah, it's huge. And in other jurisdictions that have these laws, we have seen where the commissioner, they have come out swinging their axe, and you can shut people's business down. And some of that has happened in other jurisdictions. But the expectation is that here, there'll be some leniency within the first period, whether it's a year or two, that is given. But we're out there talking about it now. We're out there helping people with technical measures to put in, and we're out there helping people with organizational measures. Just informing them, just going through this type of process. You know, it's a 2 or 3 hour discussion, training, if you want to call it, where we're informing folks what to do and how you need to do it.
Right. So I know this is a very difficult question to answer, but we have a lot of small businesses that watch this program, small business owners, even medium-sized business owners who watch this program. And you're watching this and you're thinking, okay, so how much is this going to cost me to do all the things that you're saying that we need to do? Do you have a ballpark figure as for, let's say, a small business 5 employees?
So what we've been doing over the past 2 to 3 months as we make some offers, right? We've been helping folks just start with the data, well, just with the initial assessments as to where the privacy is. We call it the DPIA, right? And we've been making very entry-level offers just to kind of say, okay, with an investment of an initial set of numbers were US dollars. With an investment of, let's say, $2,000 US, here are a bunch of things that we will do. We'll come in and tell you where you are and tell you what's possible. And we may even start with some sort of a data mapping and kind of say, okay, here's a start, here's what you need to do, and kind of give it a list. So at least when the team leaves, you know where you're technically, right? What's weak with your IT security, cyber security measures, and where are you organizationally? Do we have the right policies in place? So we're at our own team, we're actually doing all that work right now. I mean, every day we have some sort of other type of component of this that we have a team member working on.
Is there anywhere that we can find like a checklist of the things that we need to do?
So with the folks that attend the seminars that we've been putting on, we send them a checklist publicly, working on a page to put all of that there. But this is all new and fluid. I don't want to put anything too hard and fast down until we see.
Boy, I see this being a big challenge, especially with those penalties for non-compliance. Trying to figure out if you have a limited budget, limited staff, limited revenue, and trying to figure out how to do all of this. A lot of people are going to be trying to DIY it, and where do we get the information?
Yes. So, well, the first thing is that anyone can go and just search for the Data Protection Act 2020 and download it.
But not anybody can read and understand a piece of legislation.
Well, you know what happened? It's actually not massively difficult to read, right? You have the 8 standards that you kind of go through, and yes, there's all the supporting jargon. Yeah, someone kind of legalese reading. But once you go through it, you kind of have a high level understanding of okay, this is what this thing is telling me. It's not all here in Jamaica, by the way. In the Caribbean, we have Barbados, and that's passed a similar act, and Cayman, that has passed a similar act, right? But I think Cayman is a little bit ahead of us because Cayman actually have their commissioner in place, and they've actually handed out some sort of a rulings already, findings that a data owner has found that their rights have been breached, and they have reported it, and things have started to happen, right? So we're not there yet, but we're getting to be there very shortly.
All right, Chris. Anything else that we need to know before we leave?
Well, at a high level, if an organization if they are public or just have a board of directors or there's board of advisors, the board needs to own this risk. They need to be asking questions around, Mr. Management, Mrs. Management, where are we operationalizing any of these activities that need to happen? Is it on your agenda? You need to know put this on your agenda. At a high level, that's one of the things that I'm telling people right now. Get aware of what's going on with this specific act.
All right, so that's the first step, awareness, and that's why we're here. Thanks again, Chris.
Delina, thank you very much.
Much appreciated.
And here's a recap of Chris's main points. Although the Data Protection Act has been passed, it will not become effective until the government has the relevant authorities in place to ensure monitoring and compliance. Companies should use the 2-year transition period to get their houses in order by assessing the extent of personal private data being processed. Companies who fail to adequately protect customers' data could be fined up to 4% of their revenue in the next 2 years.
That's it for this episode of Money Moves JA, brought to you in partnership with Exim Bank's Business Advisory Service, giving you the tools to grow your business. Visit their website at eximbankja.com and visit my website, KalilaReynolds.com, where you can read a summary of this episode.
Let's get this money.